Okay, I think that right now we should be streaming. Okay, I think that right now we should be streaming. Okay, hello everyone, my name is Justin Hacker Flexer, and today we're gonna continue our JavaScript certification on a freeCodeCamp. We remain at the objects, JavaScript objects, introduction to JavaScript objects and their properties. So let's start reading. What is an object in JavaScript and how can you access properties from an object? In JavaScript, an object is a fundamental data structure that allows you to store and organize related data and functionality. You can think of an object as a container that holds various pieces of information, much like a filing cabinet holds different folders and documents. Okay, these pieces of information are called properties, and they consist of a name or key and a value. So we have constant example object, which is gonna have a property name and a value. Objects are incredibly versatile and form the backbone of JavaScript. In fact, almost everything in JavaScript is an object or can be treated as one. This includes arrays, functions, and even primitive data types like strings and numbers when used in certain ways. This object-centric nature of JavaScript is one of the reasons it's such a flexible and powerful language. Let's look at how you can create an object. Okay. Okay. Let's look at how we can create an object. So we have this object person, which has a name of Alice, age of 30, and city of New York. In this example, we've created an object called person with three properties: name, age, and city. Each property has a name and a value, separated by a colon. Okay, now let's explore how you can access these properties. There are two main ways to access object properties in JavaScript: dot notation and bracket notation. So, dot notation is the most common and straightforward way to access object properties. Here is the basic syntax for the dot notation. So we have the object name, dot property name. Here is how you would use dot notation with our person object. So we have this person object and we have person name, which is Alice, person.age, which is 30. Dot notation is concise and easy to read, making it the preferred choice when you know the exact name of the property you want to access, and that name is a valid JavaScript identifier, meaning it doesn't start with a number and doesn't contain special characters or spaces. Bracket notation, on the other hand, allows you to access object properties using a string inside square brackets. Here is how you would use bracket notation. So we have person, Alice, person of name Alice, age 30 and city New York, and if we write with the brackets name, we're gonna get Alice, person bracket string age, we're gonna get 30. Okay, so basically here we put the name of the property as a string in brackets and we get the respective value. So bracket notation is more flexible than dot notation because it allows you to use property names that aren't valid JavaScript identifiers. For example, if you had a property name with spaces or that starts with a number, you'd need to use bracket notation. So you have a constant odd object. First property is gonna be hello, property with spaces is gonna be world. So odd object first property is gonna be hello and property with space is gonna be world. Okay, another advantage of bracket notation is that it allows you to use variables to access properties dynamically. For example, property name which is gonna be the city. We are gonna get Wonderland. Okay, this flexibility makes bracket notation particularly useful when you don't know the exact property name at the time you are writing the code, or when you are working with property names that come from user input or some other dynamic source. It's worth noting that objects in JavaScript are incredibly powerful and versatile. They can contain not just simple values like strings and numbers, but also arrays or other objects. Understanding objects and how to work with them is crucial in JavaScript because they are used extensively throughout the language and in many JavaScript libraries and frameworks. As you continue to learn and work with JavaScript, you'll find that mastering objects opens up a world of possibilities for creating complex and powerful applications. Questions: which notation will you use to access the property of an object if the property name contains spaces? We're going to use bracket notation. What's an advantage of using bracket notation over the notation when accessing object properties? So it allows you to use variables as property names, right? Okay, what is it said that most things in JavaScript are objects? Because everything in JavaScript has properties and methods. No, because JavaScript was originally designed for object-oriented programming. Because when primitive data types can use objects. No, because objects are the only data type in JavaScript. No, because even primitive data types can be treated as objects in certain context. Okay. Submit and go to the next challenge. Okay, how can you remove properties from an object? So there are several ways to remove properties from an object, with the delete operator being the most straightforward and commonly used method. When you use delete, it removes the selected property from the object. Here is an example of how to use the delete operator. So we have person, name Alice, age 30, job engineer. Delete person or job, and if we try to get person or job, we're going to get undefined. In this example, we start with a person object that has three properties: name, age, and job. Then we use the delete operator to remove the job property. After the deletion, the person object no longer has the job property. Okay, another way to remove properties is by using the structuring assignment with REST parameters. This approach doesn't actually delete the property, but it creates a new object without the specified properties. Okay, so the rest, we're using the REST, the structuring assignment with REST parameters. Okay, so we have name, age, job, city. We get job city dot remaining properties from the person, and we're gonna only get name and age. Okay. So in this example, we use the structuring to extract job and city from the person object, okay, and collect the remaining properties into a new object called remaining properties. This creates a new object without the job and city properties. Understanding how to remove properties from objects is an important skill in JavaScript programming. It allows you to manipulate objects dynamically and clean up unnecessary data. Questions: what will be the output of the following codes? We have object A1, B2, C3, delete object.b, console log obj, so we're gonna have only A and C. Okay, next, what will be the output of the following code? So we have car, brand, model, year, and if we delete car of year, we're not gonna have car.year anymore, so it's gonna be undefined. Next, which operator is commonly used to remove properties from an object in JavaScript? It's gonna be delete. Check your answer. Okay, so we can go to the next challenge. How to check if an object has a property? So in JavaScript, there are several ways to check if an object has a specific property. Understanding these methods is important for working effectively with objects, especially when you are dealing with data from external sources or when you need to ensure certain properties exist before using them. We'll explore some common approaches. The hasOwnProperty method, the object.hasOwn method, the in operator, and checking against undefined. Okay, Let's start with the hasOnProperty method. This method returns a boolean indicating whether the object has the specified property as its own property. Here is an example. So we have person with the name and age properties, and if we console log person that has own property name, we're gonna get true, but if we check against job, it's gonna be false. Okay. So in this example, we have an object called person with two properties, name and age. To check if name is a property in the person object, we use the hasOnProperty method. Since name is a property, it will return true. But when we use the hasOnProperty to check if job is a property, it will return false because it doesn't exist in the object. Okay, object has.hasOn is the modern recommended way to check if an object has a property as its own, non-inherited. Think of it as an upgraded, safer version of hasOnProperty. The syntax is object.hasOn, object and property name. You pass the object as the first argument and the property name as the second. Here's the basic example. So we have person name and age. Object.hasOn person name, true. Object.hasOn person job is going to be false. In this example, object.hasOn person name returns true because name exists directly on the person object, but object.hasOn person job returns false because job was never added to the object. Okay, a very important thing to understand is that object.hasOn only checks if the property exists. It doesn't care about the property's value. This means it still returns true even when the value is 0, false, null, or undefined. So we have user, we have the username, score is active, and nickname. Object.hasOn correctly reports these all exist. So we have hasOn score, this is true, is active is true, nickname is true, but email is going to be false. Danger, using if directly gives wrong results for false values. So for example, if user.score, this will not print even though the score exists. Okay, but it has on, we are gonna get a score of 0, right? Another way to check for the existence of a property in an object is to use the in operator. Like hasOnProperty, the in operator will return true if the property exists on the object. Here's how you can use it. So name in person is gonna be true. Okay, in this example, name in person returns true because name is a property of person. Okay, the third method involves checking if a property is undefined. This approach can be useful, but it has some limitations. Here is an example. So we have car with a brand, with a model, with the year, and if the brand is undefined, is different than undefined, which is going to be true, and car color is different than undefined, this is going to be false. So in this code, we check if car.brand and car.color are not undefined. This works because accessing a non-existent property on an object returns undefined. However, this method can give false negatives if a property explicitly has the value undefined, right? So in practice, the choice between these methods often depends on the specific requirements of your code. Understanding the differences between them will help you make the right choice in different scenarios. Questions. What will be the output of the following code? So we have obj x as 0, I as null. Console log object has a property of I. This is gonna be true because we have the property I. Next, what will be the output of the following code? So we have person with name and age. Name in person is gonna be true because we have the name in person. What will be the output of the following code? Obj a as undefined. This is gonna be falsy. Okay. I think I'm gonna stop the stream here, guys. Maybe we're gonna hear each other's tomorrow.